At 1812 Eastern Time on May 30, 2026, a 30,000-pound bunker-penetrating weapon tore through the darkness above a remote mountain range. Traveling faster than 700 miles per hour, it descended toward a fortified underground complex hidden beneath hundreds of feet of rock. 45 seconds later, the landscape would change forever. Far below, engineers working the night shift had no idea that an operation planned across multiple continents for nearly a year had finally entered its final phase. The story of how that weapon arrived over its target begins almost 20 hours earlier. At a heavily guarded airbase in the American Midwest, floodlights illuminated the angular silhouette of one of the world's rarest aircraft. Ground crews moved with practiced urgency around the stealth bomber, performing inspections that had been rehearsed countless times but never taken lightly. Fuel tanks were topped off. Navigation systems were verified. Communications links were tested and retested. Inside the cockpit, the flight crew reviewed mission data that had been updated only minutes earlier. At 0015 Eastern Time, the first aircraft rolled onto the runway. Moments later, its engines pushed the bomber into the night sky. The departure looked routine to anyone watching. It was anything but. Several aircraft launched westward over the Pacific while another group quietly headed east across the Atlantic. The maneuver was intentional. Military planners understood that satellites, radar networks, and intelligence agencies around the world would be watching. The westbound aircraft were meant to be seen. The eastbound aircraft were meant to disappear. Hours later, thousands of miles from home, the real strike package approached its first aerial refueling point. Night refueling remains one of aviation's most demanding tasks. Two aircraft moving at hundreds of miles per hour must maintain near-perfect alignment while transferring thousands of pounds of fuel. The tanker crew extended the boom. The bomber eased forward. For several tense minutes, tiny corrections kept both aircraft locked together against turbulence and darkness. The transfer succeeded. Then another. Then another. Each one moved the mission closer to its objective. By late afternoon, the strike package approached the edge of contested airspace. That was when the escorts arrived. Stealth fighters emerged from the horizon, taking positions ahead of the bombers. Their sensors searched hundreds of miles in every direction. Every radar signal. Every aircraft. Every electronic emission. Nothing escaped their attention. The lead pilot received a brief transmission. The route ahead remained clear. For now. The bombers continued forward. Behind them came additional aircraft carrying electronic warfare systems, reconnaissance equipment, and air defense suppression weapons. Together they formed a moving network of sensors, shooters, and jammers. Each platform had a specific role. Each depended on the others. But the bombers were only one part of the operation. Nearly 2 hours earlier, far away in international waters, another phase had already begun. Deep beneath the ocean surface, a guided missile submarine waited in silence. The vessel had spent days moving into position. Now its crew monitored digital countdown clocks glowing across command center displays. The order arrived. Launch authorized. Compressed gas blasted the first cruise missile from its launch tube. Seconds later it broke through the surface. Its booster ignited. Flames illuminated the night. The missile accelerated away. Then another launched. And another. Within minutes dozens of cruise missiles streaked toward their assigned targets. As each weapon departed, the submarine's crew carefully balanced the vessel, compensating for changing weight and buoyancy. Everything happened according to plan. Above the water, the missiles spread across multiple routes. Some flew over open terrain. Others followed valleys and riverbeds. Their navigation systems continuously compared stored mapping data against the world below. The weapons adjusted course automatically. Their arrival times had been synchronized to the second. Nothing was left to chance. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles ahead, fighter aircraft initiated the next phase. Electronic warfare platforms began broadcasting powerful jamming signals. Across the region, radar operators watched their screens fill with confusion. False contacts appeared. Real contacts vanished. Tracking solutions dissolved. Communications became unreliable. Air defense commanders struggled to determine what was real and what wasn't. Then the first radar battery transmitted. That single emission revealed its location. Within moments multiple aircraft had targeting solutions. A suppression missile launched. The radar shut down. Too late. The weapon continued toward the last known coordinates. Seconds later the site disappeared in a flash. Elsewhere, additional air defense positions suffered similar fates. Some attempted to relocate. Others simply went silent. The psychological effect spread faster than the physical damage. Operators knew that every transmission increased their chances of being targeted. Many chose not to transmit at all. By early evening, a corridor had opened through the defensive network. The path wasn't entirely safe. But it was clear enough. The bombers began their final approach. Inside the lead aircraft, crews reviewed targeting data one final time. Satellite links confirmed coordinates. Navigation systems verified attack geometry. Every variable had been checked. Then checked again. At precisely 1812 Eastern Time, the weapons bay doors opened. Cold air rushed through the compartment. The release sequence began. For an instant they appeared motionless. Then gravity took control. Guidance fins deployed. Targeting systems activated. The weapons accelerated toward the ground. Inside the bomber, the sudden reduction in weight was immediately noticeable. Flight control computers compensated automatically. The aircraft remained stable. Below, the target complex sat buried beneath layers of reinforced construction and natural stone. Its designers believed depth provided security. The incoming weapons were designed specifically to challenge that assumption. Seconds later, the first impact occurred. The strike generated a shockwave that rippled through the mountain. Rock fractured. Concrete failed. Protective barriers designed to absorb tremendous force encountered pressures beyond their design limits. Deep underground, tunnels collapsed. Equipment chambers ruptured. Support systems failed. Additional impacts followed. Each weapon struck a different point. The timing had been calculated to maximize cumulative effects throughout the facility. The mountain itself became part of the destructive process. Shockwaves reflected through the underground structure from multiple directions. Every impact compounded the damage caused by the previous one. At separate locations, cruise missiles reached their objectives. After flying for hours at low altitude, they entered terminal guidance. Sensors compared real-world imagery against stored reference data. Course corrections were measured in inches. The weapons struck key infrastructure across several sites almost simultaneously. Explosions illuminated the night. Secondary fires erupted. Power systems failed. Communications networks collapsed. Across the region, military commanders struggled to understand the scale of what was happening. The answer became clear within minutes. This was not a limited strike. It was a carefully coordinated operation involving bombers, fighters, submarines, electronic warfare aircraft, intelligence platforms, and aerial refueling assets operating across thousands of miles. Back over the target area, the bombers completed their attack runs. Their mission had lasted less than half an hour. Years of planning. Months of preparation. Countless hours of training. All compressed into a few decisive moments. The aircraft turned toward home. Tankers waited along the return route. Escorts maintained watch. Electronic warfare platforms continued monitoring the region for any sign of response. None came. The operation's final phase was now underway. The long journey home. Behind them, damaged facilities burned through the night. Satellite imagery collected in the following hours would reveal the extent of the destruction. Engineers, analysts, and intelligence officers would spend weeks studying the results. Historians would spend years debating the significance. But for the crews involved, the mission ended much more simply. A successful departure. A successful strike. A successful return. And another chapter added to the history of modern air power. End.